My name is Daniel Blake. I'm 42. I work as an electrician in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There was nothing unusual about my life, except that I always felt, how should I put it, a faint noise under the skin of reality. It's like someone's whispering on the other side of the wall. But I wasn't crazy. At least, that's what I thought at the time. It all started with an accident. An ordinary day, an ordinary job. I went up to the substation, checking for a power leak, and stepped on the wrong one. A current passed through me, and my body fell. Later, the doctors will say that the heart stopped for 3 minutes. And in those 3 minutes I was dead. There is no tunnel. There is no light. Only the cold. Absolute. Not like the temperature, like the absence of breath, thought, color. A space with no direction. And in this void, someone. At first I thought it was a human being. But it had no eyes, no mouth, and no shape. Presence only. And power. He didn't speak, but I understood. Do you want to know the truth, Daniel? I couldn't answer. I didn't have a mouth. But there was a cry inside me, yes. Then space split like glass, and I saw, not a vision, but a memory of a world that hasn't happened yet. Lands on fire. Crowds with their eyes closed, following the figure in white. He was beautiful. Too handsome. His smile burned my soul. He won't come like a monster, the voice whispered. It will come as medicine. I saw how this man cures diseases, resolves conflicts, unites religions. People worshipped him. They said that peace had finally arrived. He touched their foreheads, and in each touch there was a seal. Not physical. Spiritual. And with each touch, the shadows grew deeper. I saw the temple, not in Jerusalem, but in cyberspace. In a virtual tower of light. People entered it, giving up consciousness, merging with something, with someone. They called him teacher. The savior. But he looked right through them. His eyes were empty mirrors. He will speak in my name. It will be about scripture. But he's from the abyss. The voice grew louder. It was no longer inside me. It was beating like a hammer on a glass skull. And you're a witness. You have to tell me. Even if they think you're insane. I beg you not to come back. It was scary, but honest. Here is a lie in every drop of air. But I was pushed out. With a cry like at birth. I woke up in intensive care. My head ached. The nurse was smiling. Welcome back. But I didn't come back. Not completely. I saw him. I know he's right there. And no one is ready. I didn't tell anyone. Not immediately. They wouldn't understand. Neither my wife nor my colleagues. Even the pastor I used to go to, I could hear his sermons, but now they were just background noise, the right words, dead inside. He wouldn't have believed it. And even if I did, what then? He would have been as frightened as I was. For the first few days I just kept quiet. I drank a lot of water. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes I saw that man. Not the one with no face. And the other one. Beautiful. Perfect. He was standing in the middle of a white city that glowed like plastic under the sun. His gaze was soft, confident, like a surgeon's, ready to cut out your soul without anesthesia. I started noticing cracks. Not in the world, but in people. It was as if their faces were masks and there was something else underneath. On the subway, I looked at strangers, and some of them had black holes instead of eyes. They knew something. I felt it in my gut. And I knew I was marked too. When I returned to work, I was greeted with relief. You survived, thank God. I smiled and said thank you. But inside, I felt neither God nor glory. Just a draft between the nerves. One day, while repairing a transformer box on the outskirts of the city, I heard a strange ringing sound. Not in the ears, but in the heart. Tall, clear as a glass bell. I looked back and saw a man in a gray raincoat. He just stood on the other side of the road and watched. It didn't blink. He didn't move. His face was covered by a hood, but I knew he could see right through me. I turned away, blinked, and he was gone. From that day on, I started seeing them more often. People without expressions. It's as if someone sews them from the same fabric, pulls on the skin, and lets them out into the world. They smile insincerely. They say the right words. But their breath is empty. Like dolls. And all the time ringing. That's the one. It was amplified near the screens. TV sets. Smartphones. Especially when they showed news stories about restoring peace. Peace initiatives. Global contracts. New digital platforms. To unite humanity. I could feel it coming in. Through the eyes. Through your ears. Through imperceptible signals that no one will hear except those who were there. I began to doubt the reality. Or maybe for the first time I started seeing her for real. I once asked the mirror, "Is he here yet?" And then the mirror twitched. It didn't crash. It didn't crack. It seemed to blink. I screamed. My wife ran in and got scared. I said I was tired. That everything is fine. He added, "I guess God just wants me to think." But deep down I knew. This is not God. This is a warning. I tried to pray. Not because he believed, but because he was afraid. I sat in the dark, my fists clenched, saying the words I remembered from my childhood. "Our Father who art in heaven." But they sounded like the password to a long-abandoned safe. God was silent. Or, he spoke, but not in the way I was used to. On the fourth day, I woke up at 3:33. The numbers were burning on the alarm clock like a brand. The room was filled with pressure, like before an earthquake. And silence. So much so that I could hear the blood pumping in my temples. And then the voice. Not auditory. Internal, but alien. "You've seen its shape, but not its essence. To understand, you need to remember what you never knew." I didn't sleep that night. I just stared out the window and felt reality breathe. It was as if the world was skin, and beneath it was meat that was beginning to move. The dreams were back. This time I was standing in the desert. The horizon was blacker than coal, the sky like burnt glass. A procession passed in front of me, men, women, and children. Everyone's eyes were closed and their mouths were wide open, as if they were silently shouting. Each of them was holding a piece of paper, a scrap of paper with a single word written on it, truth. But these pieces burned in the hands of every second person. And every third person ate their own piece until their eyes started to bleed. I saw myself at the end of that procession. But it wasn't paper I was holding, it was a mask. Human. It was as if I'd been wearing it all my life, and now, for the first time, I was holding it in my hands. And then he appeared. Not Jesus. Not an angel. Not a demon. Just a man ideal. In black, but not gloomy. Pleasant. Encouraging. His voice didn't come out, it was pouring into my mind like honey. "Daniel, people don't want the truth. They want peace. I give it to them." I asked, "Who are you?" He smiled. "I am their choice." I woke up in a cold sweat, my shoulder twisted, as if someone was trying to pull me out of my body. Or drag it back in. Since that morning, everything has changed. I didn't look people in the eye anymore. I was afraid they'd see what I knew. That I'm not one of them. But the worst part was that I started to forget faces. Not strangers, but close ones. Mother. Best friend. I didn't even recognize my own wife when she came back from the bar with 2 lattes. Her face was blank. Not malicious. Just loaded, as if her identity hadn't been loaded yet. I blinked, and she was back to normal. But I got it, they change. And maybe they always were. Only I was blind before. It took me a moment to realize I was seeing him again. It was an ordinary day, if you can call anything ordinary, after what happened. Morning, supermarket, the glow of fluorescent lights on the floor. I was standing in line for water and bread. In front is a woman with a child, and behind is a man in a gray coat. But something stopped. I felt the world stop updating. It's as if reality is frozen, like a video at the moment of a crash. The noises were gone, the sounds muffled, the colors sterile. I turned and saw him. The one. The man from the dream. He was standing in front of the frozen food display, looking straight at me. But not with my eyes. It was deeper. He was aware of me. It was like I was his shadow, not the other way around. He didn't blink. He didn't move. But I saw the glass in front of him fog up, from his breath. An inscription appeared on the fogged surface. The word written inside the steam is, time. I blinked, and he was gone. I ran to the window, leaving the cart behind. No trace of it. No one else noticed. It was like I was screaming in a vacuum. Only the child in the queue in front of me started crying. Very strange. Without a reason. His eyes darted, not around the room, but as if he were looking at something above it. I went outside, lost and shivering. And then the worst thing happened. I was recognized. A man from the street. Homeless. Dressed in a ragged army jacket and barefoot. He grabbed my sleeve and hissed. You saw him. Shadow made of glass. He's already chosen you. I pushed him away. The people around them didn't even pay attention. Not a single glance. It was as if we didn't exist. Tell me, do you hear the sound of glass before you go to sleep? The sound of someone scratching it? He asked. When you see his face in the mirror for the first time, you'll only have 9 days left. Who are you? I croaked. He stepped back, smiling as if relieved. I'm the one who refused. And you're already half inside. That night I broke all the mirrors in the house. Even the laptop screen was covered with a cloth. I couldn't trust the reflections anymore. They were living their own lives. They winked. They changed. The dream didn't come. But at 3:33 I heard a knock. First one. Then the second one. Then 13 in a row. I went to the door. No one. But there was a handprint on the glass. Long, almost inhuman, with dark lines that seemed to burn through reality. And then I realized, he's not in the future. He's already here. I woke up screaming. But not because I was dreaming. It was because the name in it continued to vibrate in my throat, as if someone else's voice was speaking through me. It stung my tongue like a burn. It was an ancient word, but I knew it wasn't Hebrew, Greek, or Latin. It is older than all languages. It was an anti-language. A Bavdanet. I repeated this while standing in the bathroom, and each time I felt the walls shrink. The shadow in the corner lengthened. The mirrors, though sealed, vibrated under the pressure. It was a name that shouldn't have been there. I googled it. 0 results. Not in texts, not in stories, not in codes. But when I entered it in the search for the third time, the screen went blank. And lit up again, with one phrase in the center. You woke him up. The next few days were muddy. People started acting weird. Not all. Only those who looked me straight in the eye. It was as if something in my gaze infected them. At work, a colleague came up to me and asked, When he opens his mouth, will you watch? I didn't know what he was talking about. Him, too. He didn't know what he was saying. There was a blankness in his eyes, as if someone had rented out his mind. Graffiti began to appear on the city walls. Black circles with a cross inside. Sometimes with the number 9. Once I saw a teenager drawing such a sign on the asphalt. As I got closer, he turned around, and his face became a blur. As if someone had erased its details. I went home in a panic. It was necessary to understand something. I took out an old demonology reference book, not because I believed in it, but because I needed to hold on to something. In one of the sections I found the word Abaddon. Bulletin of Destruction. Lord of the Abyss. But not Satan. Not an antagonist, a shadow executor of the will. The names sounded similar. But in my dream there was a Bavdanet. As a feminine gender. As a distortion. And then I realized that the name I was hearing wasn't him. This is what will come after it. That night I woke up again. The room smelled of ash. And someone was scratching under the floor. Not loud, but rhythmically, as if counting down. 9, 8, 7. There was a mirror in the corner. I forgot to take it off. And I wasn't alone in the reflection. I found the diary by accident. It was sewn into the floor. Under the parquet floor, in a bedroom I've never really used. Where the floor creaked most oddly. I took off one of the boards and saw a box. Sealed with wax, tightly wrapped with red thread. Inside is a diary. On the first page. Maria Bonner. 1938. This house is cursed. And I'm a witness. I read it overnight. She lived here, in the same house. She was a nurse. No husband, no children. But the descriptions of dreams, apparitions, and voices from the sewers were all eerily similar. The pages smelled of mildew and iron. Fear seeped into the ink. But the main thing is the drawings. On one page, a woman with no eyes stands on the rubble of a temple. In her arms is a baby, but with two faces. Around, language is written backwards. Signature. Abavdenet feeds those who cry out without faith. I froze. Same name. In the same house. Almost a century ago. On another page, a symbol. A black circle with a 9 inside. He was everywhere. Even in my dreams. But she called it the pre-time seal. And added, when the 9 rises above the 8, the anti-man will appear. What does it mean? I did not know. But one paragraph was underlined in blood. If you're reading this, you're already tagged. Keep quiet and he'll fall asleep. Speak and he will open his mouth. I closed the diary. Just then, the intercom rang. 2:43 a.m. No one should be there. I walked over. On the screen, a woman. The old woman. All in black. My hair is tangled. Her face is veiled. She just stood there and breathed into the camera. And a whisper came over the speaker. Abavdenet is not a woman. She's a church that died in unbelief. The screen went blank. I ran down, but the street was empty. Just a piece of paper nailed to the door. Peace is not in silence. Peace is in the testimony. I didn't sleep anymore. And he began to write. If you're reading this, you may have also heard a name that doesn't exist. In the morning, everything looked normal. Almost. I was standing by the mirror when I first noticed the sign. It wasn't drawn. It was under the skin. Just above the left shoulder is a red spot, almost in the shape of a number. I thought it was a burn. But when I touched it, I felt the skin beneath it throb. Not pain, but meaning. The sign was changing. Like a hologram. In one moment, a circle. In the other, it looks like an eye. Or a spiral. And then he was gone. Like he knew I was watching. A letter arrived the same day. Not electronic. Paper content. A thick envelope with no sender's address. On it is the same symbol that was in Maria's diary, a 9 pressed into a circle. The handwriting on the envelope was angular and old-fashioned. Almost ceremonial. Inside, one phrase. You're marked. And you need to hear it. Tomorrow. 2100 hours. Address, 616 Eden Avenue. I dialed the address. The Bronx area. An area I didn't go to. And, as it turned out, it wasn't listed on any of the maps. Not in Google, not in Apple, not in the city archives. I asked the taxi driver. He frowned. Eden Avenue? It was supposed to be an old street, demolished about 20 years ago. It's now some sort of vacant lot or warehouse. What do you want there? I didn't answer. The next evening I did go. When I got there, the sun had already disappeared. The area was dead. The houses are windowless, the roads are cracked. Not a single person. But the GPS said I was there. A sign hung on the rusty fence. Temple Reserve. No entry allowed. I went through the hole in the net. There was a circular area lined with rocks. In the middle is a trapdoor. Old iron with the same symbol. It was ajar. I went down. It smelled like wax, metal, and blood. The corridors were narrow, and the walls were lined with a series of inscriptions in a language I didn't know, but I understood. It was as if it sounded inside me, like an echo from another life. And the word became flesh. And the flesh became a name. And the name became the terror. That was before the beginning. I found the hall. Round as a dome. Along the perimeter, candles, skulls, mirrors. He was standing in the center. The man in white. Tall. His face is hidden behind a mask, like a plague doctor's, but made of gold. You came, he said. You're the one who saw Bavdanet. That means you've already heard the name. I wanted to ask who he was. But his tongue froze. The Antichrist is not a human being, he continued. He's a sound. Vibration. He is a name that can destroy faith. You know him, but you don't remember him. While. But we'll give you a chance to remember. Through the body. Through a dream. Through sacrifice. He handed me the jar. Black ceramic, covered with writing. Have a drink. And remember. I stepped back. He didn't insist. Just added it. If you don't drink, he'll give you a drink. And then you won't choose what you see. I took the jar. Her lips were trembling. Inside is a warm liquid, thick as honey, but smelling like death. I closed my eyes and drank. The world was gone. In the next instant, I was no longer standing in the hall. And in the desert. Under the black sun. Above me hung a word written in the sky. Dereference. And the voice, not a voice, but like broken music, said, when a person's name is taken away, it can include what was before the names. I fell to my knees. Then I realized that I only remembered the first letter of the name. And that was enough to keep me up for 3 nights straight. As I sank deeper into the abyss, it was as if I was being burned by the inner fire of a truth I didn't want to see. There, in this dark realm, I met a figure whose appearance was both simple and complex, like an ancient riddle. His face was almost human, but his eyes shone with a cold light that burned with fear and power. It was the Antichrist, but not the one I expected. He wasn't a beast with horns or a monster from scary tales. He was a mask that the world wore, a reflection of the delusions that are so many around us. His power lay not in sheer cruelty, but in seduction, in a soft whisper that plunged hearts into darkness under the guise of light. I could see people gathering around him, leaders, artists, scientists, all of them held captive by his gaze, as if lost in a dream that he controlled. Their souls were wrapped in a web of promises and lies that he masterfully wove to lure and enslave. At that moment, a terrible realization came to me: the Antichrist is not just a person. It is a system, an idea supported by millions whose faith and hope are twisted by lies. His throne is the heart of the modern world, where the truth is blurred beyond recognition. He turned to me, and I felt the cold wind of despair. His voice was not a word, but a thought that entered my mind. You seek the truth, but the world prefers sleep. Your time is running out, and soon many will wake up in the night without finding the light. I tried to protest, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, the scene of the future unfolded before my eyes, a battle of light and darkness, where the fate of all mankind hung in the balance. And then I realized that I wasn't the only one who had to tell the world. Everyone who hears must awaken. Otherwise, the darkness will consume everything. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart beating as if it was competing with the frenzied rhythm of time, which seemed to be getting smaller all around. The last vision, what I saw in the dark, was not just a vision, it was a prophetic lesson that shatters the mind into 1,000 pieces. Looking in the mirror. But not an ordinary mirror. It was a mirror in which souls were reflected, broken, distorted, captured. Each reflected figure was like a ghost of hopes and fears intertwined in a cruel dance of illusions. The Antichrist was not just a human being. It is a symbol, a distorted image, born from the depths of human desires and fears. His power lay in the fact that he created masks that people craved to see. His words were as sweet as honey, but there was a bitter poison hidden inside. The people he deceived didn't realize that they were just reflections of their own weaknesses, hidden sins, and unconscious fears. In the mirror, I saw many faces, friends, strangers, influencers, even my own loved ones. They looked at me with such awe, as if they were looking for salvation, but instead they reflected emptiness. Their eyes were lifeless, distorted. They believed the lie as if it were the truth, and they were sinking deeper into the web of deception with every passing moment. My mind struggled with this realization. I felt an unbearable struggle arise inside me, the desire to turn away and hide from this truth, and at the same time the desire to convey it so that someone would hear. This truth wasn't simple. It was like a poison that could kill faith if taken carelessly. I remembered hearing a voice in my near-death experience, soft but commanding. He is a mirror. Through it, the world sees itself reflecting its deepest desires and fears. And now I knew that the Antichrist would not come as a demon. He is already here. He is already inside each of us. He is a reflection of those shadows that we are afraid to recognize. The thought filled me with icy dread. So, the struggle is not just with external evil, it is a struggle with yourself, with your demons, with the shadows hiding in the depths of the soul. And if I want to survive, I need to understand and accept this, to become the light that breaks through this darkness. In the stillness of the night, I could hear whispers, soft but insistent. They were a call not to shut up, not to be afraid, not to give in. They were the voices of those who had already been through this, who had not given up in the face of darkness. They reminded me that faith is not just a word, but a fire that can be kindled within yourself, even if there is darkness around you. I got out of bed, tired but determined. I remembered the faces of those I'd seen in the mirror. I couldn't leave them there, trapped in a lie. My mission has become clear, to uncover the truth, even if it means paying everyone. The Antichrist is not just a figure. This is a challenge that awaits each of us. And I won't let this darkness consume me. After the night when I saw broken souls in the mirror and realized that the Antichrist was a reflection of humanity's darkest desires, the days became unbearably hard. The world around them seemed to be covered with a layer of transparent ice-cold, insensitive, slippery. I felt that the balance between light and dark was beginning to swing slightly, and I was on the very edge. That day I met him, the man everyone was waiting for, but no one really saw. He stood at the intersection of the bustling streets of New York, but he seemed out of time and space, like a shadow stretched out from the edge of the world. His eyes were deep and calm, but they radiated a coldness that was bone-chilling. He spoke to me in a voice that was both a whisper and thunder, breaking down the walls of my mind. "You're looking for answers," he said. "But are you ready to hear the truth?" I felt a twinge of alarm inside me, but something made me nod. I knew it was an ordeal that couldn't be avoided. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm the one behind the masks," he said. "The Antichrist, but not the monster you were taught to fear. I am the mirror of your own soul. I am the product of delusions, fears, and hopes all woven together." His words were like a cold wind blowing away the layers of my consciousness. I felt a storm surge inside me, fear, anger, doubt, and incredible curiosity all at once. He continued, "The world longs for salvation, but it fears the truth. Each person carries a spark of light and shadow. I am the shadow that you reject but cannot separate from yourself. You saw me as an enemy, but I am a part of you. I wanted to pull away, run away, forget, but my feet were rooted to the ground." His words cut into me like a wedge, shattering my usual beliefs. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Recognize yourself. Embrace the light and darkness in yourself. Only then will you see true freedom. You're not a victim. You are the creator of your own destiny." At that moment, I realized that the battle with the Antichrist is not in the outside world, it is inside each of us. This is a war against our own fears, against what we try to hide even from ourselves. His smile was cold and sad. "And yet the light exists. But you can't find it by running from the shadows. You have to go through it." When it was gone, The air smelled of bitterness and hope, like after a thunderstorm. I was left alone at the intersection, feeling a new fire burning inside me, the fire of awareness and willingness to fight. This fire wasn't just a light, it was a beacon that could guide you through the darkest night. What lay ahead of me was not just a struggle, but a journey into the depths of my soul, where the truth is hidden. And I knew that it was not only my fate that depended on it, but the fate of the whole world. After that meeting at the crossroads in New York, the world wasn't the same anymore. Every morning I woke up with the feeling that the inner labyrinth was growing and drawing me deeper, to a place where the boundaries between light and dark were blurring, and the truth was becoming unbearably sharp. That day I went to the library, an old building with battered leather chairs and dusty volumes that still held the quiet of the last century. I needed to understand, comprehend, find a language for what I saw and heard. I opened the pages of sacred texts, philosophical treatises, mystical writings, trying to catch the hidden messages. And there, between the lines, were signs, symbols that didn't seem random. My eyes fell on the passage. Do not be afraid of the shadow, for without it there is no light. For light and darkness are two sides of the same coin, and only by accepting both can you know the truth. The words were like a spell that echoed in my heart. I realized that the battle that everyone was so afraid of was not just a fight against external evil, but an internal process that takes place in each of us. The Antichrist is not an enemy on the outside, but a reflection of our deepest fears and delusions. As I sat among these ancient pages, I felt time slow down, and a special atmosphere began to thicken around me, a fine line between reality and mysticism. And then, as if out of nowhere, an image appeared in front of me, not a person, but a symbol. A mirror that reflects me. In its depths, I saw all my weaknesses, fears, insecurities, and doubts. I saw moments when I rejected the truth, was afraid to admit myself. And at the same time, I saw sparks of light, moments of courage, sincerity, and love that will never go out. The realization didn't come immediately. It was both painful and liberating. I realized that in order to defeat the darkness, you need to stop being afraid of it. You have to look into the eyes of your own shadow and accept it as a part of you. Then I remembered the words of the one I had seen in the night. You are the creator of your destiny. It wasn't a threat or a prophecy, it was an invitation. An invitation to an inner journey that not everyone can complete. But the deeper I delved into these thoughts, the more I realized that this path is not for the weak. Each step is a test. Every truth is a heavy burden. And the world around us continues to fall into chaos, as if preparing the ground for a great change. I went outside that night, and the cold New York wind hugged me, as if to remind me that the battle was still going on, and no one could stay away. I looked at the twinkling lights of the city and felt that soon the moment will come when the hidden will become clear, when everyone will be able to see their true face in the mirror of the soul. And I decided, I won't back down. I will accept this shadow. And I will fight, not only for myself, but for all those who are not yet ready to face the truth. The morning in New York was wet and gray, as if the sky itself was reaching out to the ground, ready to shed tears. I stood at the window of my apartment, looking out at the endless stream of cars and people, all in a hurry, not knowing that the world as they knew it was about to crack at the seams. What I saw in my dreams and in those mystical visions became less and less ghostly, but more and more real, as if the invisible threads of fate were beginning to weave a new fabric of existence. Behind every sign, behind every shadow, I felt the breath of impending disaster, but with it, hope. It seemed to me that I had learned more than just the secret of the Antichrist. It was the secret of the human soul, torn apart, and at the same time striving for wholeness. In each of us, both light and darkness live like two snakes intertwined in a single dance, where every wrong step can become fatal. I saw people all around me, caught up in the hustle and bustle of illusions, as if they were wearing masks they didn't want to let go of. This mask is a symbol of their fear of the truth and inner freedom. And the more tightly they held it, the more the darkness crept into their souls. That day I met Professor Keynes, a man who had spent his entire life studying religion and ancient prophecies. His eyes were tired but alive, as if he was seeing things that others couldn't. We talked for a long time. He told me about how stories about the Antichrist were always a metaphor, not about an external enemy, but about the internal destruction of humanity. How people are afraid of losing power and control, and therefore create idols for themselves, politicians, idols of money, technology. But the truth, he said quietly, is that the Antichrist is already here. Not in one person, but in the system, in the collective consciousness, in the absence of compassion and faith. The words hit me like a cold wind. I remembered my vision, the figure behind Trump, not just as a shadow, but as a symbol of a soulless order that devours souls. When I got home that night, the silence was almost palpable. That was the first time I heard whispers, not just thoughts, but real voices talking about me and everyone around me. They weren't judgmental or threatening, they were just a reminder that the time for nudity had come. To expose the truth means to stop hiding behind fears and illusions. This is scary, because the truth is often painful. But without it, there is no healing. I realized that there was more to come than just a battle of good and evil. It will be a battle for human consciousness, for the ability to see and accept reality as it is. And I promised myself not to turn away. Even if this path leads to loneliness and misunderstanding. Because now I am the bearer of light, albeit weak, but alive. With each passing day, the weight of the visions became more unbearable. More and more often I found myself thinking that reality, and what I saw in the moment between life and death seemed to intertwine, merge into one frightening stream. The world around them seemed like a shadow theater, where the real players remained hidden behind the scenes. In my dream, a figure I'd only glimpsed before appeared, a tall man in an immaculate suit, but with eyes as cold and empty as a bottomless pit. He was surrounded by people whose faces were blurred and elusive, as if they were afraid of their own reflections. It was the image of the Antichrist, but not the one depicted in the old prophecies with horns and hooves. No, it was the image of a power that hides its true face. I realized more and more that evil doesn't always wear demonic masks. Sometimes it comes in the form of smiling politicians promising a bright future, in the form of corporations that rule not by the laws of justice, but by the laws of profit and control. Professor Keynes said that the Antichrist is an idea that penetrates the hearts of people when they stop distinguishing between truth and falsehood, when their faith is replaced by fear and lust for power. He is not one person, but a whole system created out of fears and a desire to control. At night, I saw the system spread its tentacles all over the world, reaching into homes, minds, and hearts. And people became pawns, playing a game they didn't understand the rules of. I tried to tell my friends and family about it, but their eyes were closed. They didn't want to see the truth. Some smiled with pity, others with annoyance. I was left alone with my visions and thoughts, and in this solitude I began to understand the true meaning of my experience. It wasn't just a warning. It was a wake-up call for people to stop being afraid to look into the eyes of their own shadow and accept the challenge that time has brought. The morning was gray and cold, as if the sky itself was tired of holding its weight over the world. I woke up with a heavy feeling in my chest, not from illness, but from the knowledge that was rushing out, but couldn't find the words. The world around them seemed as blind as ever. People walked through the streets, staring at their phone screens, not noticing that invisible threads of manipulation were stretching behind their backs. I saw in these threads not just control, I saw the loss of souls. I was reminded of a conversation I had with Jesus during my experience. He spoke not only of the end of time, but also of the beginning of something new, a light that is born from the darkest depths. But for this light to shine, it was necessary to break the chains of fear. It was necessary to stop hiding behind the masks of convenience and lies. It was a struggle not with an external enemy, but with inner demons: doubt, indifference, false confidence. I started looking for like-minded people. Not those who just listen, but those who are ready to see, who are ready to fight. It was not always easy to explain what he saw. The words seemed faded before the grandeur of the revelations. But some people were listening. There weren't many of them, but they were a fire in my darkness. We began to study the ancient scriptures, analyze the symbols, and search for signs. And every day I realized more and more that this battle was already underway. It is in every heart, in every choice. And the worst thing is that it can be lost where no one expects it. With each passing day, the darkness around them deepened like clouds over a stormy sea. But a fire was burning inside me, a fire of faith that no evil could quench. I realized that the Antichrist is not just a person or a force. It is the epitome of delusion that captures the hearts of those who reject the light of truth. His appearance changed, his masks changed, but the essence remained the same: to seduce, to lead astray, to destroy. But Jesus also showed me another side, those who did not give in, who kept their love and faith in their hearts, no matter what. These people are like seeds sown in stony ground, and they will grow and bear the fruit of a new world. He told me, "The true battle is not with the enemy outside, but with the darkness inside everyone. Free yourself from fear and you will free the world." Coming back from that state, I felt that I had not just survived, I had become the bearer of the message. I have to go down a path that few people will choose. But I'm not alone. If you are reading these words, know that there is always light, even in the deepest darkness. Don't let fear get to you. Seek the truth, love without conditions, and remember there is a light beyond the horizon ahead. If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss new stories that awaken and open your eyes to the secrets of our world.